Welcome to the TSPmagazine podcast network. You're listening to a new episode of Secure Your Strategy podcast, where your host, Chloé Messdaghi, provides strategies to leaders and managers on how to repair critical issues in security and tech. We're glad you've tuned in. It's time to secure your strategy and your stakeholder approval. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
Hi everyone, my name is Chloé Messdaghi and welcome to another episode of TSPmagazine's Secure Your Strategy. And today I have a special guest. I'm going to have Tom introduce himself. Tom, welcome.
Thank you for the welcome. It's great to be here. I'm Tom McVey. I'm a solutions architect at Menlo Security. And happy to be here. Hopefully we'll have an interesting chat today.
Well, I'm excited for this. We're going to probably dive into AI, of course, because that's what everyone is talking about still today. But in particular, it's always interesting to see how people in security are talking about AI in a sense. Some still are talking about well, it's not true AI, it's ML. So call it ML. But then, in the developer world and everywhere else, people are using the term AI. It's now become that catchphrase, but also is the way that now we establish, things like ChatGPT and anything that's generative AI. So let's kind of dive into first. I would say, a lot of topics have been sensationalized in the news, but also even in our own industry of security. So what are some of the topics that you say that are more sensationalized versus more of the reality that we need to focus on?
Yeah, I think you're totally right with the word sensationalized. I mean, every headline on AI today is it's going to end the world and everyone's job is under threat, everything. How many articles have you seen where it's literally a doomsday kind of?
It's end of the world as we know it.
I think that's sensationalist, isn't it?
Very much. I remember when Elon Musk told everyone hey, we should put a pause on AI. It's bad for the world and everything. We're not ready for this and the impact it has. But then secretly behind scenes, he was creating his own AI product. Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks. I think.
Yeah, right.
The call for the pause is I don't know. I always thought it was very silly because there's no way to really enforce that. And all you're doing is giving basically any company that doesn't agree, or even if you do it on a national level, you're just giving other nation states a head start of 6 months, basically. You're never going to actually get everyone to pause. And there's been other technologies that have been that impactful in the workplace. I mean, the internet in general, social media, pretty recent still, I think all in our lifetimes. So, and there was never any cause for, let's, halt the internet for 6 months. So it seems a bit over the top, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of you got to put it back in the box kind of situation. I can just imagine as a child, you get a toy and then they're oh, no, you can't play with this. You're going to have to wait for about 6 months, put it back in the box and then put it in the closet. You just can't take away something that's already been kind of given or has been, shared with society, because we're all using it. Well, not all, but many of us are using it, especially ChatGPT.
Even my dear mother is using ChatGPT and my grandma and such to help them do things. So when you start hearing that, you realize, okay, this explains why it's been the fastest growing piece of software, if you can call it that, really, web application in the world ever, faster than Instagram, Facebook, 100 million users in no time at all. So yeah, everyone really they all are using it. Yeah.
Yeah, for my dad, it's flight reservations and trying to come up with an itinerary. He used to spend days kind of coming up with that. Now it's just minutes.
Yeah, hey, create me an itinerary to see the city Rome in 3 days. I want to focus on historical areas, but also take me to some nice pizza restaurants. And I mean, what it puts out sounds legitimate. You might turn up and realize that there is no restaurant called Joey's. And then you're oh, okay. It kind of it can sometimes be confidently incorrect,
Right, that hallucinations is so true. You just imagine that just showing up on your holiday and then just be where's this pizzeria? It said it would be right here, but it's a pawn shop or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that happening.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about like how I guess society is using it right now. Well, generative AI. But the thing is like, how is AI being used right now when it comes to security, especially when it comes to defending, against attacks and so on?
Yeah, I think the public has figured that AI is incredibly useful in the last year or so, really, maybe two. But AI has been, at least in the form of machine learning, present in cybersecurity for at least as long as I've been there. So it's coming on like 8 or 9 years now, and it's been used for its kind of primary goal. When you look at AI versus humans, the main thing it's good at is taking a large amount of data and drawing conclusions from it, and it does that much better than any traditional algorithms and humans, of course. So in things like SIM tools, which are basically like log collectors, so every single device, security product in an entire network is going to be spitting out logs which say, oh, this person did this at this time, or somebody downloaded this file. And there's hundreds of thousands of these things coming out every day, especially in the big organizations. So to have like a human team going through them is just impossible. So it's where AI has been used previously, is to analyze all of these different logs and all the different things, and then try and draw conclusions from it to correlate the logs, and then let you know, oh, this person downloaded a file. He normally doesn't download files this big, and then he's accessed 3 different areas in the network which he's never accessed before. And it's that correlation now that's going to trigger an alert. And machine learning has been used for these kind of alert triggers for a very long time. But in general, with IT, with cyber, or really any industry you work in, if there's a large set of data that needs correlations drawing between it, it's quite probable now that there is some form of AI or machine learning working on that today, to be fair.
I just see as like helping take care of the alert fatigue. That's like, a really good thing for like SOC analyst ones. Like that's gotta be really tricky to like try to, keep an eye on everything, and then, getting all these alerts all the time. And of course, AI, the best thing that when it starts working, or ML, either way you want to call it, it's really about the data that you put in and the policies that you set, and you can make it stronger and better. And with more people using it, it starts learning, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's the amount of data and the data quality that you feed it. I mean, I think everyone has noticed, captchas online used to be just weird letters and stuff. Why am I clicking on like what's the motorcycle? Which part of this is a traffic light? And it's like, oh yeah, well, I'm feeding the algorithm, it's getting training. What kind of thing are we trying to train at the minute, really dramatically? And it's obviously self-driving AI, and those captures are feeding in to that whole process. You don't really realize it, but yeah, the quality of data is super important, and it's why you can't just click your fingers and make successful AI. It does need that quality of data. One example is like the way hands look in AI generated images are still not correct, because it's a very complex object, really. A hand, it's at every different angle looks very, very strange, very different. You can manipulate it in a lot of different ways. So AI hasn't got the hang of it yet, because it just hasn't had enough data to learn on, and hasn't had enough time yet. But like you say, with enough time and data, anything is kind of possible. We might look back at this time and think, wow, yeah, ChatGPT used to be so rubbish, and now it's a million times better, even though we're all, singing its praises today. It's going to advance quickly.
Yeah, I would say it would be probably something like equivalent to like Yahoo search versus Google search.
Yeah, good old Bing.
Right, good old Bing.
Ask Jeeves. Ask Jeeves.
Oh my God, Ask Jeeves. Oh, we totally did it ourselves at that point. So how do you think AI can impact the workplace? And what are some things that we need to be aware of, especially leaders in the space?
It's dramatically going to impact the workplace, and there's almost no workplace that won't be affected, even if it is just colleagues helping it to do more menial tasks like writing basic email. I know friends and family that they have to send out like an email explaining to customers that this is what's happened, and they can do that much easier with ChatGPT. I think we'll find, to kind of estimate the future a little bit, that you'll have companies with kind of AI assistants for workers now, and I think AI is going to completely basically replace the operating system, or at least the UI. How tricky is it to go into Windows and find that one Excel spreadsheet that was to do with last quarter and then edit it, when you can go, hey Cortana, open last quarter's spreadsheet and change the second column to add up to X, etc. And then the PC will go ahead and go and do that all for you. And I think that's where we're going to see the most dramatic like augmentation of the day-to-day working of a user in any workplace. Is they're probably going to end up with this kind of AI assistant where it's going to help them find what they're looking for, write and do the menial tasks, and hopefully leave people available to use their brains in what humans do best, which is typically going to be like more creative or particular tasks. That's the dream. Who knows? Maybe we'll just all be replaced. But yeah, that's the sensationalist article that would say that.
It's good that you bring up the whole creativity thing. I would say that since using like ChatGPT, it's helped me get through like the things that I'm not too excited about, where I'm not going to get as much dopamine. And then there's a time now that I have to be more creative. Of course, it does still take time. Like I'll write a blog and then I'll give it to ChatGPT, say like, make this better. And then it'll spit something out. And I'm like, you know what, let's change this. Let's make some humor in it. Give me some John Oliver spin on here. And it's really fun because you get to play with it and be creative with it too. But also it gives you time for you to just think instead of rushing. I gotta get this project done, that project. It gives you the ability to be like, okay, what are some things that I should focus on here? Things that we're not focused on in our organization. And I feel like that's kind of like a dream for so many people, including myself. Like it's amazing.
You get to kind of become the director, right? So whereas before you were running around with the camera and the script and then doing the acting yourself and jumping back to then think about, what's the plan again? Now, you really take that director role in any work that you're doing, and you are just kind of steering the AI. If you're making it write an article, okay, like you say, give me a little bit more humor here, do this there, and I think that's a good analogy, really. Yeah.
So where do you see the upcoming trending topics when it comes to AI ML security at this time?
Yeah, so I mean, with AI and ML, as we've mentioned, it has been used a lot in cybersecurity for quite a while. It's not a brand new thing for us, but there's some new ways that we're seeing it used on both sides, really. So for us, we're able to use AI a bit more effectively when it comes to like image recognition, because of the advances of things like DALL-E and Midjourney and other AI generation for images, and all the captures people are doing to feed to the car algorithms. It has meant that, at least recently, the image analysis capabilities of machine learning and AI has increased quite dramatically. So at Menlo, for example, we're scanning web pages with AI automatically when a user clicks on them to determine if it's asking the user for a bit too much. Is it asking for a password and a username? It's also able to even look at like the logo of the web page and determine, is this really a Microsoft logo? Because these brands, they're very strict with their brand logos, so they would never have, and you can have a look, you would never see a Microsoft logo on a black background. It's against their branding regulation. So AI is really good at picking that up and thinking that might be a little bit suspicious because we've never seen a real Microsoft logo that's this size or in this position or in this color. So we're using that type of AI as a recent advancement to help us, but we are also seeing attackers using AI to help them as well. So it's a bit of a two-sided fight, really.
It's like, who's going to figure it out before us? And that's like one of the concerns I have. And I've said this on other podcast episodes, which is like the security researcher team. I mean, folks, in a sense, they may be involved in bug bounty at this time, but when it comes to like how MLs are designed, they have absolutely no idea. And to learn like, well, how do I get started in it? How do I even break into this kind of sphere? I think it's definitely problematic. which leads me to believe, like, if we don't get, the secure researchers on board with it, then we're facing a situation where not sensational end of the world doom or anything like that. But the thing is, what we need security researchers to find vulnerabilities because our security teams can't always find it. And right now it's very hard to find security researchers in this space. And so it's left us with this giant gap, And I know one of your passionate topics is about heat attacks. Do you mind sharing a little bit with folks that may not know what heat attacks are?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, heat is a highly evasive adaptive threat. So that's basically a new type of attack that's recently been coming forward. And we've been tracking them for about, I think the earliest ones we've been seeing were about 2, maybe 3 years ago, but they've sort of been dramatically increasing in the last year and a half. And it's a new type of threat that's basically custom designed to bypass more traditional security measures. So obviously your antiviruses, maybe a firewall, or traditional web filters, these kind of mainstays of cybersecurity, which everybody at home will have heard of an antivirus and a firewall. And it's because they've existed for quite a while. These threats are basically custom designed to bypass them. And it does that in a few different ways. There's lots of different types of heat attacks, but the ultimate situation is that users can just click on links and be infected immediately without pressing a download button, without their antivirus being able to tell that anything that's going on, going straight through the firewall and infecting you. And I think that's something that, at least when I speak to some friends, they don't really realize that just clicking the link can actually infect you. I think a lot of people think you do have to press, the download button and then open the file, which is true in some cases. But these heat attacks have techniques where literally all you need to do is click on a link and that's it. Game over. There's embedded HTML and JavaScript that can infect you just from the web page itself. So it's kind of scary. You really have to be careful with those clicks. You can't make that decision after click and go, oh, no, that does feel a little bit dodgy now, because with these attacks, that would already be too late.
So how can people stay safe in these situations besides not clicking on a link, but say like the link looks totally normal to an average person and they're still going to click it because like, oh, this looks like it's fine. It looks like the email came from my grandma or something,
Yeah. And there's spear phishing attacks that may even try and pretend that they're from your grandma or maybe from your boss and such, that really are so well crafted that you cannot really put the onus on the employee to actually not click it. Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing a huge rise recently in the technology called remote browser isolation, or RBI, sometimes just called isolation. And that's the idea where you essentially want to keep the web page that's running away from the user and their device. It's kind of like an air gap for the internet. These attacks are coming out, but there's one thing that still rings true, which is that if an attacker wants to be able to infect you, they have to run some kind of code on your computer. They have to run executable content of some description, whether that's a file or something else. So if you are able to basically air gap your device from the internet and make sure that you basically never run any kind of code on your device from the internet at all, then you can be protected in any circumstance, even if a user does click on a very convincing link with these heat attacks. And that's the technology called remote browser isolation, because all of those all of the executables which would normally run on your device are instead running in a remote browser, which is based in the cloud. So you kind of take all of the risk away from your computer and you put it into a very disposable computer in the cloud, a virtual one. So if you do click on a malicious link, then it's that virtual computer that's infected rather than yours. And that's kind of the technology we're seeing, which really is the only one that has any chance against these types of threats, because otherwise it's just a cat and mouse game, and you may come up with an answer now, but then the attackers will eventually outwit you, as we've seen. So yeah, keeping yourself away from the actual code on the internet is the only surefire way.
Yeah. And for those that are like, well, I don't know if this is my boss or not my boss kind of situation, and you get a text message supposedly from your boss, I'll be honest with you, why would they sign off their name? thanks, full name.
Yeah,
Like,
if you want to be convincing,
like,
you would just put like, okay,
right?
full stop. Oh yeah, that's my
Right.
boss. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
giving me anxiety at all. Yeah. Then
I
I'll be
always,
convinced. Yeah, click on
right?
the link.
I always notice I'm like, every time I get like a smish, and I'm like, why would you sign off? Like, I just don't understand. No one signs off in a text message like, hi Tom, I have this important deliverable. Can you please, deposit the following things to this account? Thank you. I don't know, John Roberts. Like,
Yeah, it's a bit over formal. Sometimes they go a bit too far, right? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's all the fun of social engineering, and that's a really interesting topic, really. I'm not sure if you've seen, there's a really famous video of a lady that's that calls up a random person's bank and is like pretending to be his wife, and she's got a some kind of audio device that's playing back like the sound of a crying baby, and
Oh
she's just,
yeah.
oh, I'm so sorry, my husband's out, and oh, I'm sorry, let me quiet down, sorry. Oh, can you just let me in the account because I really need to get this delivery? And then the guy's just obviously, oh, of course I'll help you, and then just forgets about all the security measures. And yeah, maybe those smishers need a bit more of that energy where
They
it's
need some better
so
training.
convincing. Yeah, yeah, because you can get completely fooled, but if
Right.
you're just signing off your full name, then it might be a bit over formal.
I don't know if you did you ever read this article in the New York Times? It was around mid-February where a journalist was playing around with ChatGPT and trying to social engineer it for information. And at the very end of
Yeah.
this long situation, ChatGPT professes its love. Oh my God. It was so good.
Yeah, it's funny how you can even do social engineering with ChatGPT or other generative AI. Like, I'm not sure if you've heard of personas, but you can kind of trick it to removing its guards that would prevent it from generating malware or doing something it shouldn't. So there are ways to trick it into doing that, and we see some attackers even utilizing ChatGPT to create very very convincing phishing emails, and even to generate malicious content. You can trick it to do that. So yeah, gone are the days of the really badly constructed email, which is like, you've won $1 million, click here to claim it. And now you've got AI driven, very convincing looking spear phishing, which, as long as you don't sign off with a full name, I think catches some people.
Right. Or Prince from Nigeria, that
Yeah,
one
yeah,
too.
gone are those days, right? It's all
Right.
it's much more slick now. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can have a castle.
Click, click, click. Yeah.
Like, yeah. I think always the conversation people have is like, well, it's not real AI yet or anything like that. And I'm always like, you don't really want real AI because then it will fall to human traps such as social engineering and so on. You want to be able to control it. You don't want it to control you.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's AI and then there's GI, which is really crazy stuff like general intelligence, where it's okay, actually sentient now. That's some future
It's
stuff
so
there,
crazy.
but
We're
you
getting
never
there.
know.
It's
It
like,
might happen pretty quick. You never know.
yeah, exactly.
This sort of thing
Well,
apparently emerges. The more complexities, the more layers you put onto it. I think if it does happen, it's going to be a complete surprise, come out of nowhere, basically.
yeah, kind of like how ChatGPT just dropped and all the mics dropped all around the world. Like, what is this?
Yeah, in cyber, we've had these like gradual increases in AI. We're making nice, steady progress, and then suddenly ChatGPT comes along, and it's kind of all at once. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, what do we do here? It's been interesting to see how the reaction has been. We've seen sensationalization also in InfoSec, of course, misinformation too. But I am looking forward to, Hacker Summer Camp Week, the Black Hat, DEF CON, and seeing everything that's going on, especially like the AI Village. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is hearing those conversations. And then, maybe I'll come back to you, Tom, and be like, hey, let's jump on another one. I heard this really interesting thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Menlo's going to Black Hat. I don't think I'm going to be able to fly over to the States this time, but yeah, it sounds really exciting. So you'll have to let me know if there's any interesting
Definitely.
stories, especially from that AI village. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, will do. Well, Tom, it's been lovely to have you on here. Must have you back on soon. Yeah, and everyone who's listening, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you at the next one. Catch y'all later.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Secure Your Strategy podcast with Chloé Messdaghi, part of the ITSP Magazine podcast network. If you learned something new and this conversation made you think, then share this channel and itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey.